In the early hours of November 13th, 2022, the small town of Moscow, Idaho, known for its tranquility and low crime rate, was rocked by a horrific murder case. Four University of Idaho students, Kaylee 21, Madison Mogan 21, Zana 20, and Ethan 20, were brutally stabbed to death in a rented house at 112 Two King Road, near the university campus. The case shocked the nation not only for its savagery, but also for the unresolved mysteries and the delay in apprehending a suspect. Two housemates, Mortensen and Bethany Funke, survived the ordeal, and their accounts became crucial pieces in an investigation spanning over 2 years. This is a story of a terrifying night, irreparable losses, and a grueling quest for justice. On the evening of Saturday, November 12th, 2022, the four victims enjoyed a typical college weekend. Kaylee and Madison, lifelong friends from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, visited the Corner Club bar in downtown Moscow, where they laughed and chatted with friends. Around 1:40 a.m., they stopped at the grub truck food vendor to buy carbonara, as captured on surveillance footage. Meanwhile, Zana and Ethan, a couple in love, attended a party at the Sigma Chai House, where Ethan was a member. They returned home around 1:45 a.m., with Ethan staying over in Zana's second-floor room, though he did not live there. Mortensen and Bethany Funke, the other housemates, also went out that evening and returned safely, unaware that a tragedy was lurking in the shadows. According to court documents, the murders took place between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. on November 13th, 2022. Mortensen, one of the two survivors, provided a detailed account of what she witnessed in the 3-story, 6-bedroom house. Around 4 a.m., Dylan woke up to strange noises. Initially, she thought it was Kaylee playing with her dog, Murphy, on the 3rd floor, where Kaylee and Madison had their rooms. However, she soon heard a voice, possibly Kaylee's or Zana's, saying, "There's someone here." Dylan opened her bedroom door but saw nothing unusual in the dark hallway, so she closed it and tried to stay calm. Shortly after, Dylan heard crying coming from Zana's room on the 2nd floor, where Zana and Ethan were sleeping. She recounted a strange male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Frightened, Dylan opened her door a second time and saw a sight that left her frozen. A figure dressed in black, wearing a mask covering their nose and mouth, walking past her in the hallway. In her statement, Dylan described the person as about 5'10" or taller, athletically built but not overly muscular, with distinctive bushy eyebrows. She noted that the figure did not run but walked calmly toward the house's sliding glass door at the back. Dylan, in a state of frozen shock, closed and locked her door. Around 4:17 a.m., a security camera less than 50 feet from Zana's room recorded barking, sounds resembling a whimper and a loud thud, possibly indicating the attack. After seeing the stranger, Mortensen was gripped by extreme panic. Around 4:20 a.m., she began calling and texting her housemates. Phone records show she called Kaylee, Madison, Zana, and Ethan, but none answered. She also called Bethany Funke at 4:20 a.m. for 41 seconds, then texted Bethany, describing the masked figure and saying she was very scared. Bethany, on the 1st floor, also tried calling the housemates but got no response. The two exchanged frantic texts, filled with typos due to trembling hands, revealing their escalating fear. Some of the messages included, "No one is answering. You do, WTF. Like he had something over his forehead and little in mouth. I'm not kidding. I am so freaked out. So am I. Come to my room. Run." Bethany urged Dylan to come to her room to avoid being alone, and though terrified, Dylan eventually went to Bethany's room. They continued calling and texting others, but no one answered. After 4:37 a.m., their phone activity abruptly stopped for about 3 hours. Court documents reveal that at 7:30 a.m., Bethany called her father, and both girls started using social media. Dylan spent over 2 hours on Instagram, accessed Snapchat, and used the job search app Indeed, while Bethany called her parents and took photos. It wasn't until 10:23 a.m. that Dylan texted Kaylee and Madison again, asking, "Are you up?" and answer me, but still received no reply. Finally, at 11:56 a.m., Bethany called 911 from her phone, reporting that Zana was unconscious and wouldn't wake up, believing she was drunk from the night before. The call was prolonged, with crying, heavy breathing, and trembling voices from both girls, supported by two other friends present at the house.
911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the White, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What's your phone number?
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi, this is...
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, Bethany, we gotta go check. But we have to. Is she passed out? She's passed out. What's wrong? She's not waking up.
The nearly 8-hour delay in calling 911 later became a focal point of controversy. Moscow police arrived at 1122 King Road shortly after the 911 call at 11:58 a.m. on November 13, 2022. They encountered a horrific scene. Zana and Ethan Chapin lay dead on the second floor, while Kaylee and Madison were found on a bed on the third floor, both with multiple stab wounds. All four victims had been attacked with a sharp knife, with wounds concentrated on their chests and necks. Autopsies conducted on November 17, 2022, revealed that the victims were stabbed multiple times, some with defensive wounds on their hands, indicating they had tried to fight back. There were no signs of sexual assault, and police believed the victims were likely asleep when attacked. A critical piece of evidence at the scene was a tan leather knife sheath found on the bed next to Madison's body. On the sheath's button snap, police discovered a male DNA sample, which became a cornerstone of the investigation. The sheath was identified as belonging to a military-style knife, possibly a K-bar, designed to inflict severe damage with a long, sharp blade. Despite extensive searches in the surrounding area, including rivers and forests near Moscow, the knife was never found. The crime scene also showed blood flowing from the victims, seeping through walls and appearing on the house's exterior, creating a haunting image of the crime's brutality.
The four were stabbed with a knife, but no weapon has been located at this time.
On the evening of November 13th, the University of Idaho canceled classes for November 14th. The university also scheduled a candlelight prayer vigil on the lawn of the UI administration building for the evening of November 16th, which was later postponed by 2 weeks. The fall break was set to begin after November 18th, with classes resuming on November 28th. Many students and other Moscow residents, distrusting the police's initial assurances and fearing for their safety, began an early exodus from the area for the Thanksgiving holiday. Those who remained were anxious and cautious, and some professors canceled their classes. Due to weather concerns, the candlelight vigil was moved indoors to the Kibbe Dome and held on the evening of November 30th.
We are eternally grateful that we spent so much time with him. That's the most important message that we have for you and your families, is to make sure that you spend as much time as possible with those people, because time is precious and it's something you can't get back.
They all lit up any room they walked into and were gifts to this world. I wish every day that I could give them all one last hug and say how much I loved them.
The Moscow police, with support from the FBI and Idaho State Police, launched a large-scale investigation, collecting over 19,000 tips from the public. Initially, police left open the possibility of multiple perpetrators. They stated they believed it was a targeted attack, but had not concluded whether the target was the residence or its occupants. At a November 23rd press conference, the Moscow police chief noted that authorities had received information, including a report that Kaylee Goncalves had a stalker, but they could not verify this claim or identify any such individual at the time. A major breakthrough came from reviewing surveillance footage near the crime scene. Videos showed a white sedan, later identified as a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra, passing the victim's house 3 times from around 3:30 a.m., before stopping for a 4th time at 4:04 a.m. on November 13, 2022. The car left about 25 minutes later at 4:29 a.m., speeding toward Pullman, Washington, roughly 10 miles away. Police traced the car's route through other surveillance cameras and identified it as belonging to Brian Kohberger, a criminology PhD student at Washington State University. On November 29, 2022, a Washington State University police officer found a Hyundai Elantra registered to Kohberger in the graduate student housing parking lot. Kohberger's driver's license information showed he was 6 feet tall, weighed 185 pounds, and had bushy eyebrows matching Dylan Mortensen's description of the stranger. Notably, Kohberger changed his car's license plate just 5 days after the crime on November 18, 2022, raising suspicions that he was trying to cover his tracks. Brian Kohberger's phone data provided further critical evidence. According to the affidavit, his phone was near the victim's house at least 12 times since June 2022, mostly at night or early morning, suggesting he may have been surveilling the house for months. On the night of the crime, Kohberger's phone stopped connecting to the network from 2:47 a.m. to 4:48 a.m., coinciding with the time the Hyundai Elantra left his apartment area in Pullman and appeared near the victim's house. Police viewed the phone's shutdown as a deliberate attempt to conceal his location. Significantly, at around 9:12 a.m. on November 13, 2022, Kohberger's phone was detected near the victim's house again from 9:12 to 9:21 a.m., before returning to his apartment area by about 9:32 a.m. This return to the crime scene just hours after the murders was noted by criminology experts, like Brianna Fox, as characteristic of some killers who revisit the scene to relive the crime or check for police activity. The phone data, combined with surveillance footage, allowed police to construct a detailed timeline of Kohberger's movements that night. DNA evidence was pivotal in identifying Kohberger as the suspect. The DNA sample on the knife sheath's button snap did not match anyone in the national database, prompting police to seek other identification methods. On December 27, 2022, Pennsylvania police collected trash from Kohberger's parents' home in Albrightsville, where he was staying for the holidays. DNA testing on the trash revealed a sample with a 99.99998% likelihood of belonging to the biological father of the person whose DNA was on the sheath. This was a major breakthrough, enabling police to secure an arrest warrant. Kohberger was arrested in the early hours of December 30, 2022, at his parents' home in Pennsylvania's Pocono Mountains. After his arrest, police obtained a direct DNA sample from Kohberger, confirming a match with the sheath's DNA with a statistical certainty of 5.37 octillion to 1, virtually eliminating any chance of error. A search of his parents' home yielded suspicious items, including medical-style gloves, a silver flashlight, dark clothing, size 13 Nike shoes, and several knives, including a Smith & Wesson pocket knife and a knife in a leather sheath. They also found criminology books, laptops, and notes, indicating Kohberger's deep knowledge of the field, possibly used to plan and conceal the crime. Brian Kohberger, 28, was a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University, less than 10 miles from the University of Idaho. He had undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics, and in fall 2022, Kohberger applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department. In his application essay, he expressed a desire to help rural law enforcement analyze technological data for public safety. However, his actions before the crime suggested a darker side. The Goncalves family discovered an Instagram account believed to be Kohberger's that followed Kaylee and Madison and liked several of Madison's posts. Though the account was deleted and police have not confirmed its authenticity, the family believed Kohberger may have tracked the victims on social media, studying their habits and lifestyles. Additionally, Kohberger's Reddit posts, where he surveyed criminals about how they chose victims and committed crimes, raised further questions about his motives and psyche. Some experts suggested that his criminology knowledge may have informed his attempts to evade detection, such as turning off his phone, changing his license plate, and wearing dark clothing.
He completed his undergraduate studies here at DeSales University in 2020, and then he received his master's in criminal justice here just this year. DeSales University releasing a statement today about former student 28-year-old Brian Kohberger, seen here graduating with a Master of Arts in Criminal Justice. Kohberger was arrested this morning on 4 first-degree murder charges for the stabbing deaths of 4 Idaho University students as they slept in their beds on November 13th. DeSales University acknowledging the arrest and his affiliation with the university as an undergrad graduating in 2020 and a graduate student completing his degree in June 2022.
Kohberger was arrested on December 30th, 2022, and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. He was extradited from Pennsylvania to Idaho on January 4th, 2023, and made his first court appearance on January 5th. At the hearing, his lawyer stated that Kohberger was eager to be exonerated and entered a not guilty plea. On May 17, 2023, a grand jury indicted Kohberger, and prosecutors announced they would seek the death penalty if he was convicted. The trial, originally set for October 2023, was postponed after Kohberger waived his right to a speedy trial, and it is now scheduled for August 2025. The defense team, led by attorney Ann Taylor, presented several arguments to protect their client. They claimed there was no connection between Kohberger and the victims, questioning the motive for the crime. They also pointed out that despite the housemates' claims of panic and concern for the others, neither left the house, called friends, family, or law enforcement for help. Instead, both engaged in significant activity, communicating with friends and parents and using social media. The prosecutors stated that the jury should view Kohberger's smiling selfie taken at 10:31 a.m., just hours after the murders, because the photo of him matches Mortensen's description of the intruder she saw that night. Kohberger's defense team appeared to be taking great pains to exclude Dylan Mortensen's testimony, particularly because she identified the person in the house that night as having bushy eyebrows. They noted that no victim DNA was found in Kohberger's apartment, car, office, or on his person, which they argued was unusual for such a brutal crime. The defense also proposed an alternate suspect theory based on a tip among thousands of leads and requested the court to consider removing the death penalty due to the overwhelming volume of investigative material. They cited Kohberger's autism spectrum disorder to explain his detached courtroom demeanor, arguing that he does not express emotions like a typical person and should not be judged for it. Additionally, they requested that the jury be informed of Kohberger's autism from the trial's outset to avoid bias regarding his behavior. The Idaho case left many questions unresolved, sparking public debate. A key issue was why Dylan Mortensen did not call 911 immediately after seeing the stranger. Professor Elizabeth Kaufman from the University of California, Irvine, explained that Dylan's frozen response could stem from the brain's fight, flight, or freeze mechanism, particularly in young adults whose prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. The fact that Dylan and Bethany used social media for hours before calling 911 was exploited by the defense to question their testimony's reliability. But Kaufman suggested that cognitive dissonance, a psychological phenomenon that rationalizes a situation to the least threatening explanation, and societal conditioning for women to suppress fear could explain their behavior. Another major question was the motive for the murders. Police found no clear evidence of a relationship between Kohberger and the victims, and the murder weapon remains missing. The defense highlighted DNA from 3 other males at the scene, 2 inside the house and 1 on a glove outside, raising the possibility of other suspects. They also suggested the crime could be linked to drugs or revenge, but the Goncalves family dismissed this, believing Kohberger acted because he wanted to kill. His actions, like changing his license plate, turning off his phone, and returning to the scene, further fueled suspicions of meticulous planning. More than 2 years after the crime, the families of Kaylee, Madison, Zana, and Ethan remained steadfast in seeking justice. The Goncalves family conducted their own investigation, gathering social media evidence, such as the grub truck video confirming Kaylee and Madison's return home at 1:56 a.m. They established a scholarship fund and named their new granddaughter, Theodora Maddie Kay, in memory of Kaylee and Madison. The Kernodle and Chapin families created the Ethan's Smile Fund, selling tulips to support scholarships. Whether Kohberger is convicted or not, the family's pain remains unhealed. They hope the August 2025 trial will answer the haunting question, why? Until then, they continue living, loving, and honoring the 4 young souls lost forever. What are your thoughts on this case? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Thank you.